What is up, guys? So today we are talking about things to do at level 70 in TBC Classic. So you just hit level 70 and you are wondering, what's next? Well, today we'll go through a couple of things you should do when you're reaching level 70, so you have an idea of a couple of things you might need to work on. So the first thing you should do when hitting level 70 is obviously to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Well, I guess not really, but while you're here, you might as well, right? Okay, seriously, the first thing you should do when you hit level 70 is number 1, make sure you completed the Karazhan Attunement Quest Chain. This quest chain can be started at level 68, and chances are some of you will have completed this quest chain before hitting level 70, but some people might not even have started this quest chain when hitting level 70. It all depends on how much you knew about TBC beforehand, as well as how you chose to level. Either way, this questline is started outside Karazhan in Deadwind Pass, and it requires you to do a couple of dungeons, namely Static Halls, for the Shadow Labyrinth key, followed up by actually doing the Shadow Labyrinth, then doing the Steam Vault, the Alcatraz, and finally the Black Morass. For a full in-depth guide on how to do the Karazhan Attunement, I will leave a link to a handy resource in the description of this video. Number 2, check your reputations. As you hit level 70, your reputations might be a little bit all over the place, depending on how you chose to level up. Generally, doing dungeon grinding will make you hit level 70, with a lot more reputations into Honored and Revered, while doing quests will usually make it a little bit more scattered. Some reputations you will be close to Revered, and others you will barely even be Honored. At level 70 you will want to make sure you have as many reputations as possible at Revered, so you can purchase the Heroic Dungeon Key, so you can start doing heroics. No matter if you are a Raider, PvPer, or Goldmaker, gearing up your character will at some point be relevant, and therefore having access to heroic dungeons will also be important. As you level up to 67 or 68, most dungeons will only give you reputations up until Honored, but there are a couple of the high level dungeons that can actually push you into Revered as well. For example, the Shattered Halls can push your Honor Hold or Thrallma reputation to Revered. The Steam Vault gives you Cenarian Expedition reputation up to Revered, and Shadow Labyrinth will give you Lower City reputation until you are Revered. You can also farm the Mechanar, the Botanica, or the Alcatraz for the Shata reputation, as well as Old Hillsprat Foothills, and the Black Morass for Keepers of Time. Many of these different faction quartermasters will also give you a lot of good items for purchase, so getting this reputation can also be vital for gearing up your character, as well as many profession recipes that are locked behind certain reputation stages for these factions as well. Number 3, farm some honor points. While we are speaking about gearing up through heroic dungeons and getting a reputation, you can also use honor points to buy PvP gear at level 70 that can be used to offset your potentially bad luck in dungeons. For example, if you do several runs of a particular dungeon for one piece of loot, and it just never drops, there's almost always a piece of PvP gear that you can purchase for honor points that is almost just as good as that dungeon item that you were looking for. Additionally, the PvP gloves usually comes with a particular damage increase that can be really decent for some classes. Number 4, get that epic flying. One thing that is completely new to TBC compared to vanilla is that you can now fly in the Burning Crusade, and learning this flying skill will be greatly beneficial. Portions of certain zones are locked behind having the ability to fly, like there's 3 lakes with special fishing pools in Terrorcar Forest, where you need flying to access them, and technically you need flying to access the Throne of Elements in Nagrand to farm those primals as well, even though there is a little trick to get there without flying, and there's even certain dungeon entrances that are in the air, meaning you need flying to get into those dungeons. Exactly how you're going to get this gold is up to you, and I have several videos about gold farming in TBC that might be of help, but if specifically farming gold is not appealing to you, you can actually get quite a bit of gold by completing quests at max level, because the experience you would get from those quests get converted into raw gold, and you are pretty much getting between 5 and 8 gold per quest, plus any other extra vendor value from the quest rewards themselves, and especially for those of you who chose to dungeon level your way to level 70, going back and completing these quests can get you several thousand gold very easily. Number 5, speaking of quests, there's actually a lot of quests you could do to get yourself some pre-abyss items for raiding, or at least some nice upgrades. How many of these you've already done will obviously depend on your leveling path, and if you've quested the entire way to level 70, chances are you've done some of these, but if you've been dungeon leveling you can get yourself some nice and easy upgrades by going back and doing some quests. Instead of listing every single quest and how to do it, I'm going to show you some items, and if you see anything that interests you, I would recommend writing it down or just searching it up on Wowhead right now, so you can find the quest for that item. So first let's go through some trinkets. You have the Regal Protectorate, which is good for tanks. You have the Vengeance of the Illidari for healers, Blade Fist's Breadth for DPS, Charm of Alacrity for tanks, Terracar Tablet of Vim for casters, Terracar Tablet of Precision for attack power users, Starkiller's Bauble for casters again, Heavenly Inspiration for healers, this one is really good by the way, Oshigan Relic for healers as well, Dabira's Enigma for tanks, Ancient Crystal Talisman for both healers and casters, and you also have the Essence Infused Mushrooms for farming. As for the armor pieces, you have a nice quest in Shadowmoon Valley that gives you some really nice armor pieces with sockets, such as the Evoker's Helmet of Second Sight, as well as other gear type equivalents, all of which are named something of the Second Sight. A couple of other items of note is the Borax Reminder, the Circlet of the Starcaller, Felbor Hide Shoes, Hauberk of Karabor, Maghari Ritualist's Horns, Maghari Scout's Tunic, Oranok's Ancient Scepter, Slayer's Mark of Redemption, Starcaller's Plated Leg Guards, Summoner's Blade, and Void Slayer's Tunic. Number 6, Professions. Now that you got your reputations in check and you've got your gear, if you haven't already, now is the time to skill up Professions. I chose to talk about this last or second to last because many profession recipes are in fact locked behind friendly, honored, revered, and even exalted reputations, so getting reputation will be more important than skilling up your professions, especially for crafting professions. Some recipes also drops from dungeons and raids, meaning you can pick those up while doing those dungeons either for reputation, or for gear, or even both. So now when it's time to skill up your professions, you got some recipes to work with, as well as you got some things you can actually craft once you get your professions to max skill. Number 7, if you haven't yet, make a decision between the Aldor and the Scryers reputation, and start working on those as well. This can be done by either farming different reputation items connected to the Aldor and Scryers, or you can also stock up and buy them from the auction house if you've stocked up on some gold. And last but not least, now that you're level 70 and have done all of these things, it's time to level up an alt and do it all over again. And there it is guys, that is 7 or I guess technically 8 different things you should do when you hit level 70 in TBC Classic, and hopefully this was helpful to some of you. If you feel like there's anything I missed, make sure you let me know in the comments down below, and if you did enjoy the video, please consider tapping that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and also subscribe to the channel for more TBC content. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.